Maybe one of the hottest spots in Hangzhou. Some come here for the scenery, some to burn incense and pray for good luck, some for Qigong, a beloved monk from local legend, and some honestly unsure what brought them here. But once you're inside, following what feels like millions of other people, it's hard to ignore the sculptures carved into the cliff beside you. There are so many of them, one after another, covering the entire face of the rock, and the more still held up, where you'd have to climb to get a closer look. When are they carved? Why so many Buddhist sculptures on one hillside? And why do they look a little different from the sculptures in North China, at Longmen, Dunhuang, or the Yungan grottos? To answer this, we have to go back 1,000 years. Buddhism reached China roughly 1,800 years ago, and the name of this peak traces back to that arrival. Over 1,500 years ago, an Indian monk came here and stopped at the side of the hill. The shape reminded him of the sacred mountain back home. Did it fly here? He asked her, and so it was named, the peak that flew from afar. You might think another poetic legend, nothing more, but I actually climbed up one day and found a small rockery platform near the top, a few stones jutting out. When I looked up photos of that sacred mountain in India, the silhouettes matched. I was genuinely surprised. Thousands of miles apart, this hill shares a faint outline with the birthplace of Buddhism. The religion followed that line, took root here, and over the centuries grew into something distinctly its own. In the ninth century, the Tang dynasty collapsed into chaos, and China fractured into competing regional kingdoms. In the southeast was Wuyue, centered in Hangzhou, known as Qiantang at that time. Wuyue put enormous effort into developing its economy, building infrastructure, and cultivating culture and education. Its rulers had no interest in conquest, no ambition to expand. They wanted to protect what they had, to build a kind of paradise and stay in it. When the Song dynasty began reunifying China, Wuyue's ruler simply handed over his kingdom in exchange for a degree of autonomy. To strengthen their legitimacy, the Qian family leaned on religion, Taoist and Buddhist rituals, prayers for good health and good fortune. Geography here made it a natural stage for all of this. Feilai Peak is limestone, and water has carved it into caves over thousands of years. People at the time believed those caves were sacred, dwelling places for gods, and ideal spots for monks to mediate and communicate with the divine. Limestone is also soft enough to carve. The unfortunate side of that, in the place this humid, is that it doesn't preserve well. Some of the oldest carvings here are already fading back into the rock. Then the Song dynasty fell. A branch of the imperial Zhao family fled south and rebuilt their court here in Hangzhou, renaming it Lin'an. History calls this the Southern Song, to tell it apart from what came before. As a political center of a new empire, it naturally became the religion center too. Over the Wuyue and Southern Song period, Hangzhou had the rare chance to develop without a constant war. The basic shape of the city we know today was formed in this era. A lake managed, a palace built along the southern hill of what's now called Fenghua Mountain, trade encouraged. Hangzhou gradually grew into one of the largest and most prosperous cities in the world, and as it did, religions moved with it, out of the temples and into the everyday life. Royal families, merchants, ordinary residents all donated to Buddhist causes. The divine stopped feeling remote and holy. It started feeling more like a presence you could actually talk to. When you see this particular carving, you might find yourself smiling just like he is. Maitreya Buddha is supposed to be solemn, but here he just sits, belly out, grinning at you without a trace of a ceremony. He has carved in the Yuan dynasty but in complete Han Chinese style, surrounded by 18 arhats, each with a distinct expression of their own. Yin tells a similar story. Originally a male bodhisattva, the finger gradually became female in the Chinese tradition, a protector of women, a grantor of children. Artists combined this deity with natural imagery to create endless variations. The faces are soft, the gestures gentle, the carved fabric precise. Arhats, enlightened discipline of the Buddha, somewhere between human and divine, became especially popular as a subject during the Song dynasty. You'll find dozens of small arhats carvings scattered across the mountain, many worn smooth or featureless now by 1,000 years of weather. One of the most famous is Qigong, a real historical finger. A monk who spent years studying and practicing at temples across Hangzhou. He drank, ate meat, and made a habit of behaving in ways that defied monastic convention. Almost every religion has a crazy monk or holy fool, someone like Saint Francis in Christianity. When the faith became deeply woven into ordinary life, it tends to generate someone who will cut through the formality and say something true in a disarming way. It's kind of a rebellion against the institutional religion. The tradition observed him. Qigong was eventually inducted into the divine hierarchy as an arhat, half human, half god, a bridge. There is a flight village nearby that locals call Qigong's bed. Arhat fingers are clustered around it. Now follow the path through the carve, walk in from this side and walk out the other. It takes less than a minute, but the carvings on the far side of the hill belong to a completely different world. These fingers are more formal, more rigidly posed. Each sits within its unframed niche. Some wear elaborate crowns, a few have expressions that are deliberately unsettling. The shift in style is too sharp to be coincidence. Those two sides of carvings share the same mountain, one inside, one outside, but they were made by different hands under different empires. The Mongols. The Mongols followed a different branch of Buddhism, Tibetan Buddhism. Once they conquered the land, they also set out to establish their own religion's presence. Hangzhou, as a cultural center of the former Southern Song, was home to many intellectuals who had not yet accepted the new regime. To explore their own faith, Feilai Peak became the perfect stage. Kublai Han sent a lama from Shisha named Yang Lianzhenjia to Hangzhou to oversee the construction of the Feilai Peak carvings. Under his direction, a new wave of large-scale carvings appeared on this mountain, Tibetan-style deities, the largest concentration of this art form anywhere in southern China. Tibetan Buddhism shares its Indian roots within the Han tradition, but it developed its own virtual language entirely over the centuries. Same deities are the same in origin, just known by different names and rendered in different forms. You can see Tibetan script carved directly into several niches here. This is esoteric Buddhism, mantra-based, ritual-oriented. The Terra fingers have the characteristic posture, narrow waist, full finger, a quality that traces straight back to Indian sculpture tradition. Protected deities built to do the opposite, intimidate. The yellow Shambhala, a deity of wealth, stands near the entrance. He is one of the most touched fingers on the mountain. People rubbed his feet for good fortune, and the stone has gone smooth from it. Ushnishwiji, the largest niche at Feilai Peak. At the center sits Ushnishwiji with multiple faces and arms. She is surrounded by bodhisattvas, all enclosed within a lama-style pagoda. The composition is intricate yet remarkably harmonious. Now, when Tibetan Buddhism arrived in southern China, it adapted. The protected deities here are slightly softer than their Tibetan counterparts. There is even a carving depicting the story of the Chinese monk journey to India, from Faxian to Zhu Shixing to famous Xuanzang. Yang Lianzhenjia also carved a portrait of himself into this mountain, a small donor finger, set among the gods and the guardians. Looking at this friendly, nice, and a little fat face, it's hard to imagine that he had done some very terrible things. The looting of thousand Song imperial tombs, which brought him enormous resentment from Han people. Time moved on, indifferent to it all. During the Ming Dynasty, Zhang Dai, a famous writer best known for his beautiful essays about West Lake, visited Feilai Peak. He also deeply resented the Yuan dynasty and everything Yang Lianzhenjia had done, so he found what he believed was Yang's portrait and destroyed it. He had the wrong one. The damage is easy to spot today. A protected deity, faceless, and a few steps away, Yang Lianzhenjia's actual donor portrait, small, flanked by 200 attendants, completely intact. Today, most people walk past without feeling any of this. The dramatic history of one regime replacing another, the resentment between two dynasties, all of it has faded away. Only these magnificent grottos remain, quietly preserving the stories in stone. The incense smoke still rises. The road names still carry their zing cadence. Locals still arrive early in the morning to pray. The shops along the path still sing charms and offerings. Millions of people have passed through here across the centuries, each one carrying their own idea of what they were praying toward. The feast continues, just in the form each era needed it to take. Feilai Peak gets crowded, but walk into the lanes just outside and find a moment where it's only the wind moving through the pines. You might find yourself transported back to another time, if only for a minute.